Hello and welcome to our breakout. Thank you for joining us. Since we only have 29 minutes, we'll get straight to it. So my first question, this is for everyone, is what is the question or topic you think we should be talking about right now? So let's start with Cécile. Thank you.
Hello, hi, good morning, everybody. So representing the Commission and especially the unit dealing with the program, the funding program, and we've been supporting the AI and robotics community for many, many years, so more than 15 years. I think what we should discuss is really how to build on all the strengths we have in Europe in research, in development, in industry, to make sure that our society or citizens or industry can build on the fruits that we have developed through the research and development. So we should discuss how to make it happen in practice. How can we make people taking advantage of what AI has to offer? And they should they should do it in a way that they can really trust this technology, feel comfortable with it. It's the thing they will have to, accept and want to have because they see the benefit and they feel comfortable with it.
Thank you. Philipp?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Philipp Slusallek from DFKI, German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence. Let me point out two key topics that I think. The one is trust was really in the focus, which I think is excellent, and the ability to actually regulate and the will to regulate is important to guarantee safety for the industry and build business models. Stable business models. But the point is, where does that trust actually come from? And the current wording seems to be focused, one aspect is high quality data. And I don't think that is enough, because you can have, we all know that you can have high quality data from, let's say, traffic signs, and with just a couple of colored patches, an AI, the best AI system would still recognize a stop sign, even though it is a speed limit. And so data, the input, controlling the input is not enough. And we need to be able to really come up with mechanisms to provide some form of guarantees of what the behavior of an AI system is, when will it do what. Without that, it will be very hard to develop trust. And if we don't develop trust, then that is a major impairment for any business model, for any industry. And so that is fundamental. And we, from CLAIRE, I'm one of the co-founders of CLAIRE, we focus on these topics. And Christian Castings already talked about this Lighthouse Center for getting a major research initiative together with industry going. So that is, I think, this collaboration with industry is my second point. How do we enable that? I think the one thing that in the US is much better than typically here in Europe is that industry and research work together much more closely. Industry engages much earlier in research and takes risk. I mean, of course, if you engage earlier, there is more risk whether that research actually pans out at the end. But without that close engagement, given that AI moves so fast, right, we can't just wait until the PhD is done to actually transfer the early results of the research into industry. And that's not just something that the Commission can just regulate. This is something where we need to get the industry involved and get the research also engaged with industry, which isn't always easy. But I think that needs to be a major focus going forward here in Europe.
Thank you very much. Giovanna, please.
Hello, Giovanna from PwC. What is important for me also in Europe is how to involve, how to digitize, how to apply AI in SMEs, because we know that AI within industry is a market with extremely high growth rates, but the AI market in Europe consists mainly of SMEs, and 90% of these SMEs are not digitized. But most of all, only around 20% 80% of small enterprises use 2 or more AI technologies compared to larger enterprises. Here, for me, it's particularly important the role of the digital innovation hubs. What is a digital? It's an important action of the European Commission, but it's important that these digital innovation hubs are implemented as soon as possible at the regional level. First of all, because the hubs are a physical one-stop shop that companies, small or large, but especially SMEs, can contact in order to improve their processes, product, services. They are at the regional level, but most of all, they strengthen the innovation ecosystem, because in a digital innovation hub, you can have the center of excellence in artificial intelligence if you are lucky, but you have also the university, other universities, industry association, chamber of commerce, incubator accelerators, can be one of the possible means to make happen this transfer easy, make it easier, this transfer of the result of the research from the research center to the SMEs and other. I also think that these hubs could be also a kind of instrument for the Commission to quickly to execute the strategy, because now we have an AI strategy, we will have a regulation approved by the Parliament, but then it needs to be executed. And for me, this digital innovation hub are one of the possible solutions.
Thank you very much, Giovanna. Reinhard.
Yeah, I can follow up on what has been said before by the other speakers. So I also think that it's very important. We have a large number of SMEs which are not yet in the position to apply the technology in the right way. And of course, we need to make it very simple for them to take it up. So if someone needs to be there, being an AI expert in each very small company, I think this is not practical. So the technology must be so easy that it can be used also in classical, traditional manufacturing environments and others. That there is, on the one hand, trust in the technology, so that it's clear that the processes are continuing and there is no risk for the manufacturing side, for example. Also, of course, no risk for any human being. So all the safety requirements and so on, they are taken very much into account when it comes on the evaluation side of modern technology. On the other hand, like Giovanna just said, so the innovation hubs and other mechanisms might raise the awareness, and this is the first step. And what Philipp mentioned, the link between industry and universities and other research areas, this is absolutely important. So the outreach has to be done in a very early stage already to raise the awareness in industry. And AI technology can be seen, if you look from the industrial perspective, on two sides. One is the companies that produce the AI technology, and the other ones are those who should benefit from it without developing any technology themselves, but just applying, adapting to their own environment. And it starts really with creating awareness, and then the next steps will hopefully follow very soon. And of course, the regulation has to be taken into account, and we need to have a very close look that it is not preventing from innovation, stifling innovation. This is absolutely a sensitive point here in this whole discussion.
Cécile, go ahead. You wanted to reply?
Yeah, very interesting and complementary inputs from colleagues in the panel. So if I may, I'd like to address each of the interesting points raised by the colleagues. And so engagement with industry, we find it so important. This is one of the reasons that we have created this PPP, public-private partnership. And the goal of the public-private partnership is really to define together a strategy for Europe to develop, so to push the science, but also to create innovation and deploy then the technology to all the sectors. And for that, this is important to bring around the table all the stakeholders, and the private part, the public part of the PPP is the Commission. The private part is the entire community, and we really strongly encourage the community to become a member of the association representing the private part. And we will have in this partnership, in this association, the academia, the industry, and the user, and also all the potential stakeholder, the NGO, the representative of the society as well, to understand really the needs. And this PPP has different role. One is to define the strategy, then we implement it with our program. We also encourage co-investment, so they invest and they realize the strategy for Europe, really for Europe taking advantage of AI. So and they have a different number of activities in standardization, in also on skills, in awareness raising, and so on and so forth. So they have different pillars and activities to make sure that we actually implement the strategy. Now, regarding the point made regarding it's not only about data. This is true. I fully agree with that. And but in the regulation, you also see that there is a need of working with good data. But there is a very important point about accuracy, which needs then to make sure that we develop algorithms which are robust, good, and deliver good results. And the transparency is also something you mentioned, that we have to know, the user has to know the expectation from the algorithm. So what is the expected level of accuracy the system will have? This is part of the transparency. So what are the limits of those systems? So it's very important to have this information. Now, the application towards the industry digital innovation hubs, you rightly explained them, and this is indeed one of the part of the portfolio of tools that we are providing to the community. We have different tools, so the research and development project, more the application-driven project, but also these networks of excellence center, where we really push the community to bring the best people around AI in Europe, and making them working together to progress faster together, and then engage the rest of the whole AI community in Europe to bring them to the highest level of excellence. And there we want to have built-in strong interaction between the excellence, between the scientists and the industry. This should be really built in the strategy. And all those tools also contribute to the regulatory framework. Why? Because they all contribute either to develop systems which are more robust, which are safer, which are more transparent, and so on. So this is the part of the research contributing as well to the regulatory framework. We also have the testing experimentation facility, which will help the innovator to test their technology before it can be deployed. So they will test what is required by the regulatory framework, but also to the user industry, which might not be sure enough, okay, am I ready to take on board this technology? And we saw that in the crisis, where we had asked, or the constituency, do you have nice tools that you could offer to solve the crisis problem we have? And we received many ideas, but many were too much at the stages of prototypes and not yet deployed, not yet tested in hospitals, for instance. So it's not the moment of the crisis to bring your piece of software or a robot and bring it to the hospital. People don't have time to test. So that's why we want to have these testing facilities to test in real site, with the real workflow of people, yes. How it will fit, and then after we will be ready to deploy. So that's another set of tools that we want to push. So
thank you,
yeah,
Cécile.
that's it from my side.
I see Philipp itching to respond to what you're saying, so let's go ahead.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of good things you're saying there. And I fully agree with almost all of this. But the really problem, and I think this is really what the industry really cares about. I mean, DFKI is an applied research center. We at every point in time we run 300 projects or so with closely with industry, And testing is a great example. Just, I mean, there's too little time to really address everything, but testing is not just having some test site with some data, but we need to be able to really exhaustively test to have an idea of what will happen, not just in this one case, in this one example, or in this one site, but really generally that this algorithm or this system actually performs like what we expect. And yes, we need to formulate what to expect, and that partially also is a societal issue. But the testing methodology is missing. The theory for a lot of part of AI systems is still missing. And so the underpinning, right, testing and theory are the two pillars on which engineering has built for hundreds of years. And neither of them is really fully available for AI. And so it's a little bit difficult to say, oh, we will have trustworthy AI when the building blocks for that actually are missing. And that is a key research question that we need to solve. And industry is calling for certified AI system, but for certification, we need either testing or the theory, which we don't have. And so if Europe really wants to put trustworthy AI forward, it needs to be our main objective to develop the theory and the testing methodology. And again, we have to do this in a very agile way, together with industry and research and society actually as well, because some of the standards will come from the societal discussion. And again, this interaction and that it needs to be a large initiative, a joint initiative in Europe, and the coordinated action plan might be a good element to bring this forward, because we need to bring all the nations together to really address this and make Europe a world leader in trustworthy and trusted AI, not just trustworthy, but AI that we really trust in. It's not just worthy, but people do trust because they see the evidence that the AI system actually perform as we expect them to.
Thank you. I think there'll be a lot of questions on how to actually implement this kind of trust, or how to form it, Absolutely. Especially around today's narrative around AI in Europe. Reinhard, and then Giovanna, please.
Yeah, I just can follow up on what Philipp just said, because I think this wider testing is very much important, because especially when it comes to real world application, where also not only pure virtual systems, but more embedded AI systems are in place, the environment is absolutely crucial. You cannot easily transfer any results from one scenario to another. We still have Moravec's paradox in place, which says basically you can play chess, you can play Go, you can do all these kind of things, but you are not able to be as agile and dexterous in handling things like, for example, 3-year-old kid. And this has to change. And this is one crucial point. And even if you have the best test facility, you still have your structured environment. And if you bring it on the road, in the street, good examples are autonomous cars. There is a big difference between more, let's say, structured environments like highways or town areas, and all these kind of different testing needs to be done to make the systems reliable and trustworthy and trusted.
Thank you. Giovanna.
Well, I would like to add also this point, that in the interest of the industry and the SMEs, I think what is also important is that in these all these discussions, we speak about testing and experimentation facility, AI center of excellence, industry, but we are missing a bit the policymakers, and the policymakers in the member states have huge amount of money in their end that they can allocate to to boost the implementation of innovation technology. In this case, AI in the industries to benefit the industries and SMEs. I think we lack sometimes informed policymakers, I would say, policymakers that take, of course, here we have Cécile, and everyone in the Commission is very, very knowledgeable about these topics. Also in the Parliament, in European Parliament, sometimes not always at the member state level. So I think we need also to involve more policymakers. They need to speak to industry representative of SMEs in order to better implement, use, I would say, all this amount of money that are now available.
Thank you. Does anybody want to respond? One of the questions that I wanted to pose is, in practical steps, how do we bring AI research together with industry application? And to be more practical about it. And I see Reinhard wants to speak.
So maybe just a very brief comment on this one. I think first of all, they need to learn how the different communities speak, how the different terminology is there, and also showcasing is something which is very important, to just not only show finalized projects, but really, like Philipp said in the beginning, the early results, making transparent to the industry. There are several ways you could do it, and the digital innovation hubs could play a good role here in raising awareness, just giving also in a virtual form nowadays in the corona times, webinars about recent research results, even if they are far from being let's say implementable prototype in the industry, but just giving a glimpse on what could be there in 1 or 2 or 3 years.
Giving
this would be
spotlight
one
to
early
motivate.
win.
Yeah, no, I think so. We're giving more spotlight to what is actually happening in the, not just the finalized projects, but the process. Philipp?
Yes, thank you. There's a number of things. Actually, DFKI is the partner in 3 of the excellence networks for the industry collaboration. So we're doing a lot in this area. One of the key elements of that engagement is what we call theme development workshops, where we bring together some top strategically thinking people from industry, from that specific sector, together with some of the key AI people from those networks, to discuss what are the key challenges in those areas and what are the AI methodologies that can be used to address that. We've done this extremely successfully with ESA, which is maybe not a full industry part. That was our first workshop, the European Space Agency. And within a day, we had a rough outline for a research roadmap that was then also funded by ESA in that case. We're currently preparing these theme development workshops for the automotive industry, for health, and a number of others that are in preparation. But another element that I think is really important, and we've started doing this in DFKI for the last few years, is what we call transfer labs. These are actually locations in the research labs where, at least after the pandemic, we'll be able to work together side by side with people from industry that come in for a couple of days or maybe even weeks and longer, maybe even coming for a PhD and going back to industry. So this separation between research and industry, I think we have to break this apart in these transfer labs, which also allow industry to get deeper insight in how research works and engage with early, maybe even basic research and fund some of the basic research ideas and see the possibilities early on and then engage as early as possible, which is what happens in Silicon Valley. And we don't really have that here in Europe as much. It's largely missing. And so these are just 2 elements of things that we're pushing forward through the excellence networks, Taylor and Envision very specifically.
Thank you. I'll address 2 things that are in Slido. The first one is, the most popular question is, who is representing EU industry in this panel? And I assume because of such a speedy, they wanted to put this event together quite quickly because of yesterday's announcement. I'm sure they invited lots of people from industry, but it's up to people's time availability of who could be on this panel. But I would encourage, if there are any industry representatives that are listening, I encourage you to put your opinion into the Slido questions, and we would really like to hear it. I will read out the next question. Given industry is the builder of AI services that are being regulated, they seem to be critically underrepresented. Was that exclusion intentional? Maybe Cécile, you'd like to react to this?
No, as I said, from the beginning, when we really started the program on cognition, so more than 15 years ago, the project partners were mainly academia, and gradually we brought industry together with academia, and Reinhard knows that very well as well. In the context of the PPP, we've started in our unit working in the robotics area. One of the main goals in building this PPP was to bring the research community and the industry together. And now each year they organize a forum, which is the European Robotics Forum, which is not another conference. It's really a forum bringing those two communities to discuss together. And as Philipp rightly explained, he mentioned two mechanisms, but in the call for proposal for the networks of excellence centers, we have imposed and built in the creation of the network of excellence a very strong link between academia and industry, program to form PhD so they can have joint PhD with the industry, exchanges with experts from the industry, and also the definition of the research roadmap. Bringing the industry to define together with the academia the main problem, the challenge to deploy the technologies, and then so that then this raise the research question, then they can develop together and progress together on. So we really, I mean, throughout the program, we want to have both industry and academia present. And I would say that, Philipp is working with industry closely. Reinhard is also working, and also Giovanna, with all the work she's done with Digital Innovation Hub, is definitely bringing to the users, to the providers of the technology and the users of the technology, and their of course industry is very much present. So even if they are not physically mentioned here, they are represented by the people around this table, I would say. And I wanted to come back to the point that Giovanna made about policymaker awareness. That's a new thing about the new PPP.
Cécile, right after you make this point, we have about 2.5 minutes left, so okay. I'll ask people for their final sort of contributions in a bit.
Okay, so quickly, the PPP will have then a link to member state representatives, so ambassador from member state policymakers, so they will be aware of that, showcasing it's so much more important for Europe, and we don't do it enough, to show the good thing we're doing on AI in Europe, both on research and development and the companies. So there we expect as well the help of the PPP to show that, and the networks of excellence will also be very useful. We also have the AI on demand platform. We should not forget that. We expect that to become a tool to be used by a whole community, and a single place where we put all our resource on AI, and to make it available to all the users in Europe. So we expect them to play a big role there as well.
Thank you very much. And Reinhard, we had one of the questions on slide, it was how would you envision a world scale AI company based in Europe?
Very briefly, in a few seconds.
Go ahead.
I think there are a lot of very niche companies who do excellent work. Many of them are somehow bought by bigger players, but especially when it comes to embodied AI, I think we see here a great potential, but also like language processing with DeepL and others.
Thank you. Any other responses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think the players here. So there was this question: how is industry represented? I think we all work very, very closely with industry, and I remember in the high-level expert group there was even complaints that industry had too much of an influence in many of those discussions. So you can't always have a perfectly balancing, but it's really that collaboration that Eva and Christian Casting was already pointing out in the beginning that really is instrumental. And I think this consortium here, or this group of people here, is really representing the different aspects of that collaboration, whether it's the digital innovation hubs, the concrete work with industry, that euRobotics and the new PPP that we're jointly creating now with the research partner. So all of that really is coming together. And what I think the one piece that I think is missing is really this unifying bigger ideas that we're focusing, and we're corralling around to create this. I think Europe is too much looking at this incremental research, and we're missing a little bit that big story, this big idea that we want to jointly create and realize. And I think that is something we need to invest more, and that of course needs to be something that's relevant to industry, but that's also a research challenge. And from those networks, we're actually engaging currently into defining what those visions really are. And CLAIR has played the CLAIR network has played an extremely important role in defining this, and we're going forward with that.
I completely agree. I hope CLAIR raises high. Any final remarks from anyone? Giovanna?
My only remark is that, you know, in any case, you know, the panel is representative, because now in the ecosystem, we always miss someone, no? This time we forgot, probably we could have invited one of the industry partner in our networks, but it's really difficult, you know, to deal with the needs and of everyone, and I think it's the same in this area.
Thank you
And
very much.
I think just one word, there is an opportunity for everyone to be involved. So do go and become a members of the PPP. You will have your say.
Thank you. That's a really good ending remark. Okay, so I think overall we want basically to bring together more representatives from diverse sectors, so that actually the implementation and the development is more transparent, is more brought together, and I suppose seen from various points of view. I'm not sure if we're supposed to finish. I'm waiting for someone to tell me to end it, but no one has. We need to end. Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for all your contributions and for everyone that contributed in Slido, and we'll see you at the final session.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.